My name is Tae Kang, and I am the Deputy Director of the Program Administration and Services Division at the California Student Aid Commission. I hope all of you are enjoying the California College Affordability Summit thus far. Thank you for all of you who have been with us since the morning, since 8:30, and for those who are just joining us now, welcome. This afternoon's breakout session, we're here to discuss a very important but often overlooked challenge in education, summer melt. Summer melt refers to the situation where students, often high school graduates who have been accepted into college, and even take steps like submitting deposits, completing orientation forms, intent to register, but they fail to enroll in college when the fall semester begins. This issue disproportionately affects first-generation college students, low-income students, and those navigating the complex application enrollment processes without the needed support. The consequences are significant, right? So students, they're almost there. They almost cross the finish line to start college, but if they can't, then the consequences are significant to the students and families, for the communities that they're in, and obviously for the broader education system. Today, our panel will explore why summer melt happens, strategies to prevent it, and the best practices that have helped students stay on track. We're here from four panels representing four distinct organizations, serving the students in their community who are actively working to close this gap and ensure that every student who dreams of college has the support to make it there. So we're going to dive in and explore how we can turn summer melt into summer success. So what we're going to do on this panel, it's going to be a little bit different. Um, we're going to keep it casual as well because this is more of an intimate Zoom setting. And we're going to have each of our panelists introduce themselves and share with us, how their organization, how they have a strategic plan around summer melts. And so we'll just take turns for them to introduce themselves and then also talk about their particular organization and how they address summer melt. So our four speakers are Innesa Kolanjian she's the Director of Programs at College Access Plan, Olivia De La O, Director of the College Success Program at Fulfillment Fund, Marvin Maldonado, Mesa Statewide Office, Interim Deputy Director, UCOP, and Dr. Julian West, Director of Programs at Emoja Community Education Foundation. So we're so privileged to have each of them to be on this panel and impart knowledge on all of us in helping to address the summer melt. So if you go to the next slide, as I mentioned, each of the presenters will have time to share, introduce themselves and then share about their organization and how they address summer melt. And then at the very end, we will have some panelist questions that they will be addressing. And if we have time, we may be able to take some questions from you in the audience. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Inessa.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, my dog is decided right now it's time to dig for his bed. Hi, my name is Innesa Kolanjian, and I am the Director of Programs at College Access Plan. We are a place-based organization. We were founded in Pasadena, Altadena in 2006 and have had a 20-year partnership with Pasadena Unified and our PUSD's largest youth-serving partner. And in recent years, we also expanded our partnership to Hacienda La Puente Unified, and are very excited about that partnership. What makes CAP unique is that we are universally accessible. We're known for our drop-in program that is not cohort-based. We serve all students in the district, regardless of GPA, grade level, citizenship status, post-secondary pathways. And all of our supports, whether it's our workshops or our after-school advising at our high school program, are available to everyone, and students don't apply to be part of CAP. What was something else that makes us very unique is that we are district embedded. CAP is a hyperlocal organization, so our priority is to work with the district, not adjacent to them. And our priority together is to co-serve the students and families. Something I'll talk a little bit more about later is that our longtime partnership has demonstrated the value of having a partnership of this type so that we can be highly responsive to our community need. Next slide. So CAP has a number of programs ranging from middle school, high school, college, and even beyond college graduation. Each program plays a key role in summer melt and in supporting student success. And I'll go over a couple of our summer melt methods in the next slide. But for now, I want to highlight three things that I think make all of our programs unique as a whole. So as I already mentioned, our programs are open to all students, which allows for us to truly meet their needs. Additionally, as you can see from this chart, we have our middle school, high school, and college success program, and then we have our family engagement program, which is a support for all of the programs that exist. So family engagement will look like any student who is engaged with our programs will have a family engagement component attached to it, as well as we have a family engagement piece deeply embedded into the district, which allows for families not engaged with our programs to also receive family education. I'll talk a little bit more about our high emphasis on family education as part of combating summer melt in a moment. And I want to also highlight that the great value CAP has in being district embedded is that by being part of the district's support ecosystem, students already know us and families already trust us, so that allows for deeper access with our services. Next slide. So, I think many of the people in the room today can attest to experiencing summer melt happening for a variety of reasons. We know that financial barriers are some of the reasons that students don't melt, missteps, feeling unprepared, not feeling like they belong. And we know that overall students are not melting because they don't want to go to college, but rather because they don't have the tools to circumnavigate the barriers that they're faced with. So, before we emphasize the work that happens between high school graduation and college enrollment, it's important to highlight the preventative measures that we can take once before graduation. So all of the things on this slide that I'll go over are things CAP supports with broadly for the district. So this is open to all students and it's district-wide. So our top priority is to focus on clarity, confidence, and sense of belonging as the foundation for combating summer melt, starting with college fit. Our staff support students in building intentional college lists that aren't just applying to schools just because they have fee waivers or applying to schools just because their friends are applying to it, but really building a list that is aligned with family needs, their personal goals, financial need, academics, and belonging. We don't want them to waste those fee waivers. We want them to apply where they're more likely to be admitted. We don't want all their schools to be reach schools. We want them to be excited about the colleges they're accepted to, because if they're excited to go, they're more likely to enroll. And more colleges they're accepted to later means more financial aid offers that they can review and make informed decisions about. District-wide, we have a push for early FAFSA and California DREAM Act completion to reduce delays and enrollment barriers, and also to ensure that they get timely financial aid packages, which is just as important as having options. It's having them in time before May 1st. Spring checklist, of course, prioritizes all the important deadlines students forget exist in the spring or don't know about. So emphasizing that there's still work to be done in the spring so that doesn't deter them from enrolling. And then finally, family education. We offer a number of workshops, but our district-wide Understanding Financial Aid Offers webinar is offered in the spring, and that's truly our strategic anchor in helping families learn how to choose a college based on cost, because we've learned students and families that make informed decisions about enrollment early, we see a dramatic reduction in melt driven by financial uncertainty. Next slide. And then finally, between high school and college, high school graduation and college enrollment, CAP offers deep advising for students in our iHeart College program, which is our only cohort-based program and is offered for alumni. And so everything on this side is deeper support for those students that are enrolled in this program, starting with summer. In the summer, we offer a summer summit, which is a full day transition event offered for the seniors and their families. And the unique thing about this event is the programs are offered simultaneously. So parents will be in a room receiving information based on what they need, and students will receive information in another room based on what they need. Families have expressed that this has helped combat fear. It's helped prepare them, but ultimately it also has allowed them to connect with the community and understand how to support their student in self-advocating, and they're more likely to stay enrolled as a result. And in the same way that in the previous slide, I highlighted the preventative measures we're taking, I also wanted to highlight our emphasis on persistence in year one, which is the same students will receive reminders to renew their financial aid, learning that skill that they'll have to do this every year. Their spring check-in is something we do with all of our freshmen, ensuring that they've adjusted, looking at their transcripts, seeing if they've met milestones, introducing them to resources that they may need at the time, and then them having ongoing support as needed. So overall, I did want to summarize that the core of what we're offering at CAP is intentional in terms of preventative and giving students the skills, but the core of what we do is that we try to scaffold our services that students know exactly, not only know where to go when they hit the challenges, but they also deeply understand the process themselves. And so they have a bigger toolkit that they can access when it's time for them to self-advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, Innesa. Great information. Next slide. All right, we'll turn it over to Dr. Julian West.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Julian James West. I just go by Dr. J. And I have the honor of serving as the Director of Programs at the Umoja Community Education Foundation. Before I speak about data, outcomes, and strategies, let me begin with the principle that grounds every single thing we do, which is Ubuntu. I am because we are. That's not just a philosophy for us. It's really a design framework, and it's a way of building educational spaces where students do not have to fracture themselves to fit in. Instead, they are invited to stand whole and be met with community culture and academic rigor working in unison. Umoja is a statewide learning community. We're in about 77 California community colleges and still growing. And our goal is to transform students through experiences, through culturally responsive teaching, mentorship, and a feeling like they belong. It's important to say this clearly. Umoja is not a program that helps struggling students, but Umoja is a community that reveals, supports, and cultivates the brilliance that these students already possess. We build excellence through community, and really at the heart of that community are the psychological pillars that research and our students consistently affirm. One of those concepts is self-concept. So helping students build confidence in their identity, their story, their culture, and their intellectual capacity. Number two would be belonging. So establishing a campus community where students feel rooted, connected, and accountable to one another's success. And then thirdly, academic self-efficacy. So strengthening their belief in their ability to succeed in classrooms that were not originally designed with them in mind. This past year, the California Community College Chancellor's Office commissioned one of the most comprehensive studies of Umoja to date, and the results were published in the 2024 Empowering Futures Evaluation Report. And it just confirms what our students have been telling us for years, which is that 88% persistence from fall to spring for Umoja students compared to 58% for non-Umoja Black peers. Umoja students are 97% more likely to transfer within 3 years. And then students also report an average belonging score of 76 out of 100 with significant increases in self-concept, meaning that Umoja does not just raise grades, but it also raises self-belief. because when students, at least from our belief, when students' internal narrative changes, their trajectory changes with it. One of the most powerful quotes from that evaluation said that emoji doesn't just improve grades, it transforms how students see themselves as scholars. And to me, that is the heart of affordability and access. A student who sees themselves as a scholar stays, they persist, they complete, they transfer, and of course, they dream bigger. So for us, it's not just charity work, it's really capacity work. And liberation really is the work for us. Next slide. So, talking about summer melt, specifically about affordability and access through the lens of summer melt, we often define affordability by cost, tuition, books, housing. There's another kind of affordability as well, which is the emotional and cultural affordability of staying enrolled. So, students melt not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack connection. Emoja interprets that cycle with intentionality. So, our work is to between high school and day one of college. For us, we've seen as one of the strongest predictors of persistence. So our strategy includes number one, summer bridge and village welcome programs. So these aren't just orientation sessions, but they're community rituals, spaces where students meet counselors, faculty, peer mentors, and other Umoja scholars before the semester ever begins. It signals that you're not entering this thing alone. And then number two, continuous contact. Emoji counselors and peer mentors maintain connection during the summer months, reaching out, following up, checking in, and building trust along the way. So essentially, we don't wait for students to fall through the cracks. We follow the cracks and fill them in. Number three, cultural grounding. Our rituals rooted in the African diaspora create identity continuity. So students step into college with cultural confidence rather than cultural uncertainty. Number four, collaborative outreach. So Umoja coordinators partner with high schools so that students experience a warm handoff, never a cold start. And when we connect students to community before day one is essentially the goal here. We don't just stop summer melt, we try to ignite academic momentum. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. That was my last slide. Go back. So in closing, what's this all mean? Essentially for us, it means that when students feel like they belong, they persist. When they persist, they complete requirements on time, and that when they complete requirements on time, they spend less money. And when they spend less money, college becomes more affordable and more attainable for the entire community. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. J. Now I'm going to pass the baton over to Olivia.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Olivia De La O, and I'm the director of the College Success Program here at Fulfillment Fund. We're based in Los Angeles. We are coming up on 50 years of being an organization, so we have a big birthday coming up soon. But basically, we focus on college access, college success, and career readiness, meaning that we have our students in high school, we help them get into college. We hold them while they're in college and help them launch into a successful career right after. We mainly serve first generation college students. So about 86% of our students identify as first generation or first generation to go to college in their family. So it's really important work that we do. Again, like everybody else in the room, it's really important that we help our students not just cross the finish line, but feel connected once they're in that race too, not just, heading towards a goal, but really feeling like it's a really empowering and meaningful experience to be in college as well. So a little bit about the College Success Program and a little bit about numbers for Fulfillment Fund. Across our programs, high school, college, and our community partner programs, last year we served about 4,500 students. In Fulfillment Fund College Success Program, our college program itself, we have about a little over 500 students that receive scholarships and full direct service from us, and then another about 500, 600 that are part of our opt-in program. So I'll go into more details about what that means for our summer melt programming, but that's a little bit of a foundation of Fulfillment Fund and what we're working with. In our high school programming, we are fully embedded in the high schools that we serve at. So our students are really used to that one-on-one support and getting that connection with their Fulfillment Fund counselor. So as we talk about summer melt and coming into the summer and making sure that they're prepared for the fall and college, that's a really key piece of what we always try to build at Fulfillment Fund, is that connection with us, but the connection with each other too, because we know that's a really important part of being successful in college, is finding that community. Next slide, please. So our summer melt programming really starts, like many of the other programs, it starts before they cross that high school graduation stage. So again, we are embedded in the high school campuses that we work at. So they are used to that Fulfillment Fund counselor, being able to meet with them, going in during lunch or advisory or whatever it is. So it's really important that we maintain, like everybody else, that warm handoff in that summer, because we don't want to lose them. So a little bit about our summer melt programming and how we designed it. It really is 6 weeks in the summer. And we communicate this with the students beforehand. That's really key, is making sure that we have clear expectations for the students over the summer. We know that there's a lot of things that are pulling them in different directions, whether that's, getting ready for college or trying to enjoy their summer. So we really want to make sure that we get this scheduled to them ahead of time. So as soon as they know that they're in our program, which, right, if they're in Fulfillment Fund, they're going to continue on with us, they know that this is part of their summer. So I'm going to go over some of the summer goals that we have during our programming, and we share all of these with the students too. So when they come into the program, they're very well aware of what we're trying to accomplish with them, alongside them, right? We're not just trying to talk at our students, but making sure that they understand that this is in partnership with them, that we value their success just as much as they value it. So it really is important for them to understand that we're on the same page as them. So some of the big goals that we have for summer, right? Meeting their college enrollment and financial aid milestones. So making sure that they get to college successfully in the fall with all of their money that they are entitled to, right? So that is the biggest goal. We want to make sure that they're building connections with our staff. So again, not just with their high school counselor, but making sure that they know that that continuation of support is all the way out, all the way through college, right? They're going to get an advisor. That is not just a one and done type of situation. They are going to have somebody in their corner the whole step of the way, throughout the college process and in their journey. We also want to make sure that they build community with their peers. So every component of our programming has these pieces tied into it. So we know that once they get onto their college campus, it's not us anymore, but it really is their peers that they're with on campus. We really want them to have fun. We know that breaks down a lot of barriers, helps them connect with us a little bit more. And at the end of the day, even though they're, stepping into adulthood, they're still kids, right? They're still youth. They still like to have fun. So we want to make sure that we embed that into everything we do as well. And we also make sure that they leave feeling confident. We know confidence is really key. If the student has the information but doesn't have the confidence to act on the information, right, then we have a problem. So every piece of our programming in the summer really make sure that we're tying back to these really key pieces that we want to make sure they hit before, they leave us from the summer and go into their respective campuses. So our schedule, a little bit on the side here, it is 6 weeks. We were very fortunate that for our first 2 intro days, we have a school site partner that let us use our space. So logistically, that was very lucky for us. We didn't have to worry about that. And then the rest of the 6 weeks, we had a hybrid model. So some of it was here in our offices in downtown LA. We had to do some adjusting because we had about 80 kids in the summer coming in and out. And then we also had some sessions on Zoom. So we did have to pivot a little bit to make sure we served all of our students. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a little bit more of our scheduling for the week. Again, it was really important for us that we had clear, consistent communication with the students. So right off the bat, that they knew one day was going to be 2 hours in person and the next day 2 hours online. So there was a little bit of something for everybody. So we wanted to make sure that we were, accessible as possible for our students, right? Whether they can make it to the office or not, we wanted to make sure that everybody had that information. We were very flexible with our advising, and here at Fulfillment Fund, we have a holistic model and a case management model. So we're making sure that we're addressing all the needs that our students have, because we know that they cannot be successful in college if they are not, well in all other areas of their life. We made sure that we had a combination of large and small group activities to, fit needs of a variety of students. And so they could also get used to being able to do that in college as well, right? We had peer connections, so peer mentors, some of our peer leaders, some older college students that could plug in as well and help give some advice. we focus a lot on emotional resilience, right? Again, that confidence piece, self-advocacy piece, feeling like they have that strength and voice to be able to accomplish their goals once we are not there helping them along the way, right? When they're on campus themselves. And again, highlighting consistent schedule and clear expectations for the students. I think for all of our young people, right, they get a lot of messages and emails throughout their day. So as clear as we can be with what were the engagement requirements, what was expected of them beforehand, it really led to a more successful and smooth summer because right, they had expectations of us that they could hold us to, and we had expectations of them. So it really was more we're doing this together, and their success, right, was all of our success. So that was, the basics of what we did in our summer melt model, and totally open to, questions after too. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Olivia. And batting cleanup for us is our friend Marvin. He's a huge Dodgers fan, so congratulations to you, Marvin, and the Dodgers. He was stressed out about them when we met a couple weeks ago. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate the baseball reference. And yes, I'm so glad that the Dodgers series is over because it was just way too much stress. But I'm glad we're on the winning side. So go Dodgers. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marvin Maldonado. I currently serve as the interim deputy director for the Mesa statewide office. Our Mesa office is part of the UC Office of the President. But our programs are not just UC. They're not just housed at UCs. We have programs that are housed at Cal State's, UCs, some independents, and community colleges. And as you can see by our logo there at the top of the screen, we are celebrating 55 years this year. So our program has been around for quite a long time, established in 1970 in Oakland, actually. And it was a partnership between UC Berkeley and Oakland Tech High School. And the program has grown from just a high school program to a middle school and high school, what we now call college prep program, and then has expanded to community colleges and university models along the way. And really what Mesa is about is we want to ensure that all students have the opportunity to successfully, pursue careers in STEM. And we know that math and science and engineering, disciplines are not the easiest. And so a lot of students shy away from those. But our hope is that through our programming, they get inspired. They can see, they see that these are very attainable majors and careers. And so what we do is at the middle school and high school level, we really try and plant that inspirational bug in them about STEM through a variety of really just mostly hands-on projects, right? It's not math and science workshops. It's here's a challenge, build a mousetrap, build a glider, build an egg drop package, things that are going to get them, get their hands dirty and really seeing what the math and science that goes into these challenges in a fun way, right? Fun, competitive way. And hopefully, they can start to see themselves as future engineers, future mathematicians, scientists, and so our goal is to prepare them, right, to have that confidence to pursue STEM careers. But obviously, that also involves all of the additional college preparation, right, financial aid and choosing your major and the resources at that next step at community college or the university. And so we pride ourselves in being an intersegmental program. So we have 18 K-12 programs across the state. We have 96 community college Mesa programs and 18 university programs. So we hope that our students, when they go from we're moving on from high school to that next step, that the goal is that they're moving to another university, another institution that potentially has a Mesa program, right? And I'm going to talk about that in my next slide. But in terms of just the opportunities, the ways that we want our students to feel, that they're ready to succeed, right? Once they get to community college and university, the mission is to keep them there, make sure that they graduate in 4, 5, 6 years, right? With their STEM degree. And you can see here that there's a variety of resources that we that we offer. All of our programs operate differently. They have their own unique flavor to them, but at the core of it, we're trying to provide, academic support, whether it's tutoring, whether it's access to a book or a computer, really having a space where they feel like they belong. Majority of our programs have dedicated spaces where they can come in, they can just take a break, take a nap, grab a snack, connect with their peers, connect with the Mesa staff or maybe even a faculty that's around, but really wanting them to feel like that campus is their home away from home, which for many of our students are coming from, they're first generation students, they're coming from economically challenged backgrounds. And so it's crucial that they have a space like this for them to succeed, particularly in those STEM majors where they can look around and maybe not see as many students that look like themselves in their surroundings, in their classrooms, right? So along with that, those dedicated spaces and providing that sense of belonging and building community, we also want to get them ready for that next step, whether it's an internship or professional, full-time employment after they graduate. So we want to connect them with industry as much as we can. We have quite a lot of industry supporters that we collaborate with, across the country, here in California for sure. And they really kind of help us for our students to be able to see themselves, right, as that future professional. And so a lot of that engagement is really important for our students, and as well as connecting with orgs like SHIP and NSBE, SWE. These are student orgs that have similar missions. They're walking the same kind of journey as them, and so those connections are crucial for their success as well. Next slide, please. What we see, the themes are very similar to what my colleagues have spoken about here already. We see that our students, they're really excited about that next step and about going to continuing their education, and for various reasons they're not able to. They choose to walk away. We've heard from our programs that sometimes that's a case of, at the very last minute, they got into their dream school and they decided that they were gonna pivot and go elsewhere. And so we see that happen sometimes. The kind of the lack of knowledge of what the steps are, the preparation steps to get ready for that next stage, whether it's submitting your housing application or financial documents or taking the proper prereq exams for your math and science classes. Sometimes they are not aware of that of those additional steps that must be taken, and they miss a deadline, and so that can snowball into just getting unmotivated to continue in the process. And so and sometimes it's other issues, family commitments, because we have a lot of first generation students that maybe are working, they're trying to juggle that with their responsibilities, and may decide that, what, it's they're going to push college off a little bit and focus more on work, and supporting their families. And so we see that happen, and it's unfortunate, but students make the decisions, and hopefully that's the best for themselves. But what we're trying to do to prevent that, or at least for make sure that our students are supported and feel like they have everybody in their corner as possible, as many people in their corner as possible to succeed at the next level. You've heard the term warm handoff already here quite a few times. That's incredibly important for us because we're intersegmental, because we have the potential for a student in 6th grade to be in Mesa all the way throughout. Even if they go, let's say they graduate high school and they go to community college, they can be a Mesa student there, and then they transfer to a 4-year institution, and then they can continue to be a Mesa student there. And that identity, that Mesa community, plays a big part in them and ensuring that they're going to continue in their career, right? They're not going to lose contact. They know that there's a family that's out there, behind them and supporting them. And so we try our best to connect our students, our graduates from each segment to the next, that they connect with the Mesa director or the Mesa student at that next stop. And those connections are pivotal in ensuring that they feel like, okay, this is a place where I know a face. It's going to feel comfortable, and they're not going into a completely new environment. That's why these bridge programs are important as well. And because all the communities that we work with are very different. We're very flexible in the models, right? They can be all virtual, they could be hybrid, they can be in person. But those bridge programs for STEM students are crucial, right? And so the opportunity to either see the campus that you're going to be at for the next couple of years, meet students that are on that same journey as you are, and then know about different resources that are available to you at that campus before you get there, can only, hopefully, inspire the student and let them know, okay, again, I've got people in my corner, right? I'm not walking into this completely alone. And I mentioned already connection to student organizations. That's important, but also outside of that, we have all kinds of interests, right? So we want our students to feel like there's other opportunities as well for them to get involved through other social, cultural clubs or opportunities on campus. And that's also quite important. The last thing I'll mention here is our Mesa Space Community Platform. This is something that's very new to us, um, and what it is you can think of it as LinkedIn, but it's exclusively for the Mesa community, primarily Mesa alumni, Mesa students, our Mesa staff across the state, and then key Mesa stakeholders and supporters. But what we're trying to use it for is a way to bring everybody together within the Mesa community, right? An ability to direct message each other, find a Mesa alumni in your neighborhood that you can connect with for various opportunities, and that's something that I think is really going to help our students stay engaged, stay connected, and hopefully in those summer months, not feel like that next step, that next institution isn't for them, but they have again a huge a support network that they can rely on. So I'd be happy to answer more questions about that later on, but I'll wrap it up now and move on.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you to all the panelists for your presentations. And what I gleaned from all of that was that four very distinct and unique programs, but still rooted in the core value of supporting students where they are at, and just making sure that they have the necessary support within the 3 months, 2, 3 months between high school graduation and then walking onto campus. And so that illustration of the warm handoff seemed to be common amongst all four programs, and just really making sure that students are able to transition from high school graduation to college. So with that, let's move on to our panelists' questions. And so we heard from each of you and your organization and your strategic plan for summer melt and trying to address this and the various programs that you have and the strategies that you employ. But the last few years have been different. It works, when things are pretty predictable and there's certainty, but the last few years have been just really challenging with like FAFSA delays and a new FAFSA system and application. Our national landscape has changed with different leadership changes and just regulatory changes that have happened. So we wanted to ask you, what are we experiencing right now? What is it that you're seeing that is different? And so how has that caused your organization to pivot to meet where students are at with this changing landscape? So I'm going to start it off by asking Marvin to address that question.
Um, Thanks, Tay. There's kind of just two things that come to mind. One of those is we've now been operating 5 years into the COVID era. And so initially, 5 years ago, we had to make this hard pivot to offering virtual programs. And that was the main way to deliver our programming, right, and services. And then as the years have gone by, we've had to now look to hybrid versions of that, or maybe dropping virtual and going to more in person. And so now we have a little bit more flexibility. But I think we still see some of that some of that effect with our students and in the way that we engage with them, or that they engage with us, maybe is a better way to think about it, right? So we're trying desperately to meet our students where they are, right? And trying to offer different ways to stay in touch with them, to get them to attend our programs or workshop. And sometimes it's been hard. I don't know if it's the Zoom, everyone's just zoomed out about it or doing virtual, or tired of sitting in front of a computer and missing that in-person dynamic, right? And so that is one of the things that now, a little bit away from COVID, we got to figure out what's kind of the sweet spot, what's the optimal way to deliver our programs, right? And even when we have workshops, we're seeing that it's so hard for our students they're not comfortable turning on the camera or raising their hands and engaging and during our sessions. And so that is something that we have to figure it out. We're trying to figure out, like, what does that look like? How do we best engage with our students in that unique kind of virtual/hybrid dynamics, right? Um, so that was one thing that I wanted to mention. The other is just the obvious, that we're in it's a very unique political climate, right? With the changes in leadership, and we see the ways that has affected, education, really at all levels. And we've had to make modifications to our own language on our statewide websites, to get rid of certain buzzwords, right? And to not draw attention to ourselves, because we want to continue that, make sure that we continue to be able to offer our keep the mission going, right? And support our students and continue to serve them, as we have, for decades, right? And so that's unique. I have, in my own career, I certainly haven't been in a situation where we had to disguise ourselves so that we don't draw attention, yet still be able to serve the students that we want to serve, the ones that need us the most, right? And yes, we're open to all, but there's a population of students that really benefits from our programs the most, and so that we're seeing that a lot of our programs also have had to do the same across the state. Different institutions are reacting differently to what's going on politically, and in some cases, our students, I wonder, if they feel like, as they're matriculating to that next institution, is there a space for them? Are they feeling confident that there's a somewhere where they can kind of be themselves, can feel at home? Because we see that a lot of these identity spaces, for example, aren't able to be identity spaces anymore. They have to change and call themselves something different that's more open to everybody, right? And but again, those are some of the things that I seeing are completely different, and we have to continue to rely on each other, on our community partners, to try and ensure that we stay on the mission, right? Whatever our missions are, aligning our missions, and making sure that we're continuing to serve our students as best as we can.
Thank you, Marvin. Olivia, your response?
Yeah, I think, I think probably everybody on this call can talk about, student engagement and wanting them, wanting more students to come out to programming. And I think during the summer, it was particularly unique in LA because of the ice raids that were happening. So we really had to make sure that student safety was at the forefront. So as much as we would have liked, in person, come to everything in person, outside in public spaces, we really had to shift and make it more of a hybrid model. I think we've been in the same space of, trying to get back to fully in person, right? Sitting in a hybrid space. But now really saying that, not just for, ease of being online, but it was really important that we needed to make sure that we could reach students where they're at, right? Whether that was at home or whether they needed to leave, right? For whatever situation. So I think that was the biggest pivot, is being able to, adjust our requirements, adjust what we had originally thought we wanted engagement to look like in the summer, and still making sure that that engagement online was just as meaningful as if they were in person. So still making sure that we didn't lose a lot of those pieces as if they were in person, right? So still making sure that they could talk to their peers, still making sure that we had speakers and people from campuses that they could talk to. But yeah, I think that was one of the biggest pieces this summer. And I think just the ongoing, again, finding that sweet spot of in person, online, even in, the best of times, right? Where students just have a lot of things going on in their lives as young people. So how do we make sure that we can capture their attention and know, and convey to them that this is not an obligation, but an opportunity, right? Like staying engaged and doing these programmings are gonna, open up a lot of doors for you, give you a lot of really important information for any summer melt programming, right? If you're engaged in something on campus or in your community and you're getting that information that you need, it really is going to open up, a lot of other avenues for you. Yeah, it was very difficult this summer.
Thank you, Olivia. Dr. J, your response?
Yeah. Well, I think that a big thing that we're experiencing this year across the state is a sharper drop in student consistency. Students are really they're taking on more work hours, they're caring for family, navigating housing instability, and trying to manage school in the middle of all that. So the biggest shift to me is not so much academic, it's logistical and emotional, where students aren't disconnecting from the learning per se, they're just overwhelmed by life. So the pivot Emoja has been that's in a practical sense is moved from program participation to more so relationship participation. So if a student can't make an event, we don't mark that as disengagement. Instead, we have a counselor send a quick check-in text, a peer reach out on like GroupMe or something, or someone from the team just calls to ask what they need or how they can help stay on track. Um, Another thing would be we use belonging as an affordability strategy in some very concrete ways. So we might host small group touch points during the term, 10-minute huddles where students reconnect and get the reminders they need. Create some simple, predictable routines like weekly village drop-ins, so students always know where to go when they feel disconnected or lost. And we reduce the campus runaround by being that one home base where students can ask any question, whether it be financial aid, enrollment, tutoring, and get guided to the right place, or just bring those places into where all of our students are. So bring someone over from financial aid, bring someone over from tutoring or A&R, so we can create a one-stop shop and not have them jumping around, spending a whole bunch of time to get it.
Thank you, Dr. J. And then Innesa?
Yes, thank you. I do agree with what the other speakers have shared. I think what our students are experiencing right now has been disruption after disruption with so many of the things that have already been named. And especially even now, like financial insecurity being an issue. For CAP, what we're experiencing right now in our broader community is that because we support Pasadena Unified and we're embedded in Pasadena, we are a fire impacted district, and the majority of our students are also facing the challenge of being displaced, transitioning housing. Their goals are changing, and we're experiencing students struggle with future thinking, which I think was already a struggle post-pandemic, and identifying like what actually their future goals need to look like. The biggest thing that I think our organization has been prioritizing and thinking deeply about is going back to the core of what we offer, which is that our relationships matter more than anything. We can't anticipate, at this point, we can't anticipate anything because like the next day we wake up and there's always something new. But at our core, sticking to supporting through the relationships and highlighting that sense of community. A couple of the things we've done to shift has been we've widened our doorway. So historically, as I mentioned, our iHeart College alumni program was cohort based, and we still have that. But this year, in partnership with PUSD, we also are opening all of our services to any recent graduate who reaches out, starting from the summer until now, if they need help to re-enroll, if they've stopped out, dropped out, need guidance in completing an appeal, whatever challenge they experience to help them matriculate, if maybe that is something they didn't do, but even if they did matriculate, supporting them in the new challenges that they may be facing. So we realized that core belief is circumstances changed, but access expanded. It did not narrow. We also have placed student and family engagement supports directly in Altadena's community disaster hub, because we want families to encounter us where they're already seeking help. So coming in as the academic support in this space. And that as our families are transitioning and facing legal fear within the high school programs also, and with alumni strengthening financial aid completion, helping them figure out which applications are appropriate for their family to submit, as well as guiding fire impacted families through submitting appeals, which will inform their financial aid offers, and making sure those get submitted in time, and knowing that that is also a struggle, that many families have to relive these moments by writing about the thing that happened to them and helping them navigate what that looks like. And then our team has also advocated with the UCs and CSUs to increase fee waiver access for students that are experiencing financial barriers, to make sure that their college lists can grow deeply as a result of that uncertainty that their family may be feeling. And then finally, just to highlight, I think a lot in this work, we talk a lot about what we provide to our students and families, but I think it's just as important to highlight what staff need. And being a community-based organization, our staff and our district partners are impacted by the very thing that our students and families are experiencing. So deeper trauma-informed care, making sure that we just stay connected in a time of uncertainty. And I don't have a very specific answer for what that looks like, because I think that is something we all continue to navigate. But I think organizations and schools must accept that that is a reality we are all facing, and that's a way to support the student work as well.
Thank you so much, Innesa. And yeah, there's so many external factors that definitely create challenges for your organizations to be successful in your programs. And so it's amazing to see how you are pivoting and how you're thinking about, what is that sweet spot? What do we have to do to engage? You mentioned that students are not as engaged, there's less consistency. And I like what Dr. J said, when we're not going to punish them, we're not going to call them out on it, but it's really, we're going to follow up with them to make sure that they're doing okay. What can we do? I like what you just said, and that's about it's not just the students, but it's the staff, right? Taking care of them. And I was just in the other breakout session, and Dr. Dulce Perez was just mentioning how, just how important it is to rest as professionals, so that your rest can be so that you can have the capacity to continue to serve and help these students, right? Because if you're not at your best, if you're not at your 100%, then it will be reflected in the way that you serve the students. So yeah, thank you for all your responses, and just the way that you're continuing to pivot, and just with the changing landscape and the external factors that continue to come every single day. And so as we're wrapping up this breakout session, we have one final question that we wanted to ask all of you in 1 minute or less. We have in this breakout session, the majority of our attendees are K-12 practitioners, high school counselors and outreach coordinators. And so they're working with these students as they're graduating from high school and then making that leap into college. And so, what are some of your recommendations and best practices that you could impart to them to help address summer melt for their students? So we'll start with Olivia.
Yeah, there's so many, right? So many ways that we can support our students, but I think what we really lean into at Fulfillment Fund is the saying, right? Like, someone will forget what you said to them, but they're not going to forget how you made them feel. And I think that's really, really important, especially working with our young people. There's a lot of uncertainty. Maybe they don't feel like they have a lot of power in these situations or a lot of say or a lot of control. So the best thing that we can do for our young people is really lean into that community care and listening to them and truly meeting them where they're at, right? And reminding them that they do have strength, they do have resilience, they do have power, even though it does not seem like it at some points. So really just, outside of the checklist and, the actual pieces of, getting into college, filling out financial aid forms, leaning on that they do have a community behind them and they have the strength and they have the power to keep going, right? Even when moments get tough. They've done hard things before. There's going to be a lot of hard moments, unfortunately, coming up ahead, but they can continue to tackle those hard moments too, with all of their community behind them, with us behind them, and, not just us, but, people on the call too. So really leaning into that it's not just the technical pieces, but that emotional strength and resilience.
Thank you, Olivia. Marvin?
Olivia, I think you were spying on my bullet points that I wrote down here for myself because you literally took all the words out of my mouth here. I will just echo the leaning into the resiliency of our students, right? Our students are incredibly resilient, and I think sometimes we forget that or we need to be reminded of that. I think the students need to be reminded of how resilient they are, how they've overcome challenges thus far, and they will continue to do that successfully, and just continue to remind them that to reinforce that confidence and that let them know there's somebody waiting for them, when they go to that next step, to that next space, to that next part of their educational journey. Somebody's waiting for them to lend them a hand, right? So I'll keep it short and sweet.
Thanks, Marvin. Innesa?
I had a few short things. So the first is I mentioned in our presentation the importance of, I believe, scaffolding for students and modeling some of these skills that they'll need. So when they're building a college list, like showing them how to make that choice as opposed to like looking at it and like telling them what they need to apply for, right? Which I think is really important in modeling behavior so they know how to problem solve later, even if the mentor is still available and accessible to them. The second is that whether we have counselors in this space today or college access professionals, I believe that all of our capacity is strained. And so thinking deeply about what our capacity looks like collectively, beyond just scaffolding. So trying to find opportunities where you have, if you are, it is a high impactful, you're putting a high effort, it's also a high impactful offering, such as our Understanding Financial Aid offers webinar reaches a broad population and supports a lot of people at once with something that it takes a lot of time for us to prepare for, but it can also significantly reduce summer melt. And the third is whether people's teams are small or large and are supported by college access organizations, to have effective collaboration, and to meet at least annually, if not more, with your team to discuss what your timeline and your strategies look like. So, you can have double the team size, but if the the power and the information lives with only the people that are offering it, then we are not truly empowering our students to know how to respond. And I tell my staff all the time, like, you don't have to be all knowing, you just have to know how to guide your students through an experience. And at this time when we can't anticipate basically any disaster, that's just the very important thing to like hold on to as you are supporting.
Thank you. And finally, Dr. J, please round us out.
Sure. Well, you mentioned a lot of K through 12 folks on here. So the thing that's coming up to mind for me is warm handoffs. So not just letting students apply to college and then hoping they'll figure it out, not just getting them to graduation, but really plugging them into not just Emoja, but also folks like Mesa, who's on the call, folks like Puente, who's not on the call, programs like EOPNS, making sure that these programs are coming to campus, locking in with these students, also taking the students to campus and locking them in with these programs. One thing's for sure, if they're locked in with a program before they ever get to the school, their likelihood of success is going to shoot up. So for me, that's number one thing that's jumping out is just doing warm handoffs and locking them in with not just the school, but the programs within the school that do a lot of this equity work, to me is key.
Thank you, Dr. J. And thank you to all of the panelists. Let's all show them some love with some emojis and some hearts and some round of applause for each of them. Thank you so much. Next slide. Next slide. It just says thank you. And then we do have a closing session. So right after this breakout, if you can join us in the closing session, that would be great to see all of you. And thank you all again, once again, for joining us in this breakout session. And big shout out to our panelists. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the summit.